Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for tuning in to another episode of GOW, the Generational Wrestling Podcast. As always, is yours truly, the 29-year-old piece of gold, the franchise, aka the showstopper, better known as the GOW's resident tribal chief. And with me, as always, I got my tag team partner, my brother, my family. He is the flyest in the room, Mr. 1, 2, 3. Pin that ass down, K Breezy, aka East T's resident Isaac Hayes in the building. King Tuco, what's going on?
Man, what it do? What it do? What's good, man? What's up with the people, man? Gotta tip the hat off to the people. Hey, man, it's Tuesday. We wanted to do something a little different. Just kind of talk with the people. Shoot from the hip. As
Yeah.
they say in the biz. Do our one too, man. Do our one too.
Well, with that being said, we got a very, very special show, man. This is something that, the King and I, man, we've been talking about for weeks now. And and we've been trying to figure it out because, we were supposed to have recently done it a few Thursdays ago, and then that fell through. And then we had some other things that come up. But one of the things we really wanted to do, we really wanted to take time to dedicate an entire episode, man, to people like the Undertaker and people that really paved the way for this thing that we love called wrestling. But you can't say professional wrestling, you can't say sports entertainment without one name or one name only, and that's Vincent Kennedy McMahon. Dude. Hey, let's get right into it. The title of this is the Vinnie Mac Effect: The Rise and Fall of Vince McMahon. We're gonna talk about the good, we're gonna talk about the bad, we're gonna talk about the in-betweens, but more importantly than anything, man, despite everything that may or may not have happened, we're not here to talk about that, but we are here to shine a light on one person in particular, and we're gonna do our due diligence. We ain't gonna play no favoritisms, but we also gonna give this man his flowers as well. So we're gonna talk about the good and the bad. But Tuco, Generation Wrestling Podcast, you and I. Two different generations. We're far and close at the same time, especially when it comes to this thing called pro wrestling, man. Your era is the '80s, my era is more of the '90s, but then we kind of converge, around.
The late '80s. Don't make me that old. It's the late
No, no,
'80s.
no, no,
I mean,
no,
I
no,
may
no,
have
no, no,
been
no, no,
born in
no, no,
early
no.
'80s, but
No,
it's
you
more of
you
the late
you you
'80s,
you you
'90s. But I got
you
you. I
late
got
you late '80s. I'm mid to late '90s, but then we converge somewhere in the middle once we get around the 2000s. I think
you.
that's
Oh
really
yeah,
where
for
you and
sure,
I can really click on this wrestling tip. But
for sure.
before we get to all that, man, Tuco, man, what are some of your earliest thoughts and memories of Vince McMahon and the then WWF and just wrestling as a whole moving forward?
I mean, for when I started watching wrestling, Vince McMahon was the commentator. You didn't
Yeah,
know he was the owner of the company. You didn't know he was the guy backstage running everything. He was the guy that did the interviews. He was the guy that did the commentating, on the matches later on. And then and once it got to more towards the Shawn Michaels kind of era of, once Shawn Michaels started kind of going through his thing and they were
right.
transitioning to a new era of wrestling, that's where you started seeing, you started finding, kind of Stone Cold. You started seeing Vince be more heavily doing Monday Night Raw commentating, and then you saw the character develop.
Yeah,
But prior to that, he was just, he was just the voice of WWE. He was a guy that, you didn't know he was that dude, even though, for me, I didn't know, but
right.
I have to think of the presentation of what I was seeing. I was seeing Vince as a guy that was doing the commentary, doing interviews and just kind of, playing up the interview guy, man, playing
Right,
that would
right.
get down on the bad guy when they would talk bad about somebody or something or do something despicable. That was with Vince. So for me, that was the early part of years of wrestling. Once he started getting more involved, man, what that attitude era of Vince. I know you were probably a little younger, not to really remember it, but it was really something, man, because there was a moment where it was just Vince was man, wrestling was on fire, man. It was on fire for a lot of good reasons and bad reasons, and I like to think that. The demise of the demise that could have came of WWE, uh, could it have been, would it have happened if he had kept Scott Hall and Kevin Nash?
Yeah.
Like, would that conversion for WCW been there for them? would WWE have succeeded? Like I feel like if they hadn't have left, neither company would have came out on top. I think because it's not like WWE had really figured out the Attitude Era. It took until those guys showed up to kind of figure out what it was they want to do, and then once they started doing it, then we got what we got. But it was kind of like a timing thing. It was kind of already there, but it wasn't. It hadn't fully made that turn. It wasn't. You needed that something that was that switch, and the outsider showing up was that switch. So to get the Vince McMahon we got that led up to the Austin McMahon feud and the Ministry of Darkness and the Corporation of Darkness and all of
Yeah,
that and the
yeah.
corporation and man, it was just
Vince
it
had
was
some
crazy,
wild
but it
shit
was
back
great.
then going on, man. Vince was part of a lot of wild things, especially when you go back to like the ministry, the corporate ministry, and the whole Vince McMahon being behind the kidnapping of his own
Of
daughter who
his
was being
own daughter, man.
like,
Like, yo, man,
yeah,
like, bruh, like, okay, like this is where you kind of get into the stuff that's like, then it was like, wow, but now it's
yeah,
like, oh shit, I can't believe he
cringy,
did some of this shit. But
yeah,
damn, this shit
yeah,
was entertaining. And this shit was entertaining. Then I couldn't look away from it. All
yeah,
right, so when I mean by that was, of course, when you get started, when Vince started doing more sexuality with the women, where you had
yeah,
the Sables
yeah,
who was doing Playboy, you had the Tory with Goldust, and you had the Terrys, and you had all these women, man, and then you started getting the Trishas and everyone else, and they
yeah,
were, they were the objects, they were the eye candy, man. They were, they didn't really get their due until years later, but man, the things that I mean, the stuff that Vince was doing with Trish in the back, my God, dude, Tori Wilson,
yeah,
her dad and Don Marie, like,
yeah.
bruh,
Al,
like,
yeah, Al Wilson.
it's like, bruh, it's just some of the
Yeah,
stuff that was going on, man. It
yeah,
was, it was entertainment. It was the entertainment of its time.
yeah,
I'm not saying that, it wasn't some cringy watching stuff. I'm not gonna say there wasn't offensive stuff. I mean, you had the Nation of Domination, and then you had DX come out and do blackface as the
blackface.
Nation of
Yeah,
Domination. So
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
dude, you had Vince was in charge of all of this stuff that created this hot buzz that's made sports entertainment what it is today was part of the creation of what he did, but also part of uh, the business side of decision making that he made that led to another company doing something else that kind of helped spark something. So it's like for me, that time of Vince, man, he could do no wrong. Now, I'm not saying everything was great. I'm not saying there weren't things that didn't get over and that's kind of sucked. That's wrestling. Not everything got over, but the stuff that did get over, it was so over that you didn't mind the stuff that didn't really work because there was so much other stuff. You had so many other people. You had other mid carders. When you can have guys like Mankind and others kind of be jokes or hardcore kind of people, and then you're doing stuff with them and they're getting into storylines and they're having these crazy matches, boiler room matches with the Undertaker, dumpsters matches, him and Chainsaw Charlie going to be against the New Age off. Like some of the creations and just the weird and stupid things and the things that they fought over. And wrestling truly was a soap opera.
yeah,
It was truly the men's soap opera. I kind of still say that to this day because that's what it was. Like, because soap operas were big back then. 90s, Days of Our Lives, The Guiding Light,
yeah,
General
yeah,
Hospital, and all that.
yeah.
Man, that was dominating TV, and
Right,
wrestling
right.
had kind of became that. Like, so when I think of Vince McMahon and the early years, before we get you know, to the demise of certain companies and stuff. I remember a guy that was, he was a commentator. He would just, call some matches, and then, he was the main voice of Raw. Then all of a sudden, he's the owner. What? Wait a minute. Wait. What? Wait. Vince owns the company? What?
Yeah,
All this time, dude, you've been the man that's been making all these decisions. So it's like
right.
that, and then you watched him. Then you watched him become a despicable person. Like Vince, he instantly tried to, become, he became that asshole. He became that boss that you always wanted to hate. And it was so awesome to see Austin, because Austin was doing the one thing a lot of us wanted to do to some of our bosses, and a lot of people. And I think that's really the way that made Vince so good. Even though he was a tycoon, but he wasn't a tycoon by then. It took a little bit more, but he was up there. But he did things that made regular people want to watch it. And anybody that would love to see Stone Cold Steve Austin give his boss the middle finger and then the stunner, you know how many people would love to do that to their boss and still be able to come to work the next day and not have to worry about getting fired or getting arrested or
Right,
getting
right.
charged. Like, man, there was a magic to what he to what he did, and it wasn't just him. There was a lot of people that put their work in behind it, but he had to see something in it to push it forward, and he added his own flair to it. He did his part, and a lot of his part, it definitely helped shape what it is today in a way. Not totally what it is, but you get what I'm saying.
I mean, when you talk about the early years of wrestling, especially well,
Ah, man,
WWE and Vince
man,
at this point, wrestling is has always been a barometer of what is going on in current day pop culture, social, politically, stuff
yeah,
like that. Ever
yeah,
since its inception, wrestling has always been sort of like a mirror of what's going on in the real world, whether it's done in satire or they're trying to mimic it in real, as close to reality as possible, like we're doing now. And you talk about some of the angles and some of the gimmicks that were back then. We looked at it, it was like, wow, okay. But I think when you look at it in context, you got to look at, there was a culture shift back in the 90s, right? Because in the 70s, 80s, you had the say your prayers, eat your vitamins. You had this whole America,
well,
yeah, 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 rah, 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 superhero type,
yeah,
mentality going on. And then as you got towards the 90s, it was more, hip hop, sex, drugs, rock and roll, so you kind of had that grunge culture, that counterculture really becoming popular. So, you had, heavy metal, rock music that was really taking over the scene, punk rock. Then you had,
oh
saying
yeah,
the hip
yeah,
hop scene. Hip hop went from being, socially conscious for the most part. So now gangster rap was the cool thing. So it was literally like a paradigm shift, right? What was supposed to be
uh-huh.
bad was looked at as
No
cool,
pun,
and what was
no
good
pun
was looked
intended,
at was
no pun
corny.
intended on the paradigm shift. Yeah.
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
say no
But it's
pun
like what
intended
was
on the paradigm shift.
right, right, right. But it's like what was bad was cool, and what was good was corny. So when you
Yeah,
look at
yeah.
like you said, like a guy like a Steve Austin coming out, what I'm saying, redneck is all hell, stunning, giving the boss a middle finger, drinking beers in the middle of the ring halfway during this match, or then when you go to the other side of things, where ECW, you got a guy like Sandman smoking cigs in the crowd, busting himself open before the match even start, going crazy, or you got Triple H and DX, like you saying, blackface to show me the boobies, but then you got to think about, the cross chop. You got Shawn Michaels coming out here swinging this dangling all around on TV, So, but back then, man, that's what people wanted. And even now, I think in this current climate, I think if that's what people wanted, it will still be acceptable today.
I don't think it's what people wanted. I think the shock value of it, it was more of the I can't believe I'm seeing what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
I think that was more of what it was. Think about this, man. Okay, so when you say when you think about the 70s and 80s, like the 70s, 80s were more on, yeah,
Bro,
the what's up, Fro? The the times during those was based on war and different issues with different countries that were going on, uh issues that were going on in the country, so that you kind of got those American kind of type heroes, those foreign heels,
the
the
pro
things that they
propaganda.
would say. Man, oh my God. And then when you get to the 80s, Hulk Hogan just took it to a whole nother level,
Yeah,
because he
yeah,
became the Captain America of real life. You think I you
yeah,
when you really think about it, that's what Hulk
yeah,
Hogan was, man. He was the be all end all. It didn't matter if it was the Soviets, Nikolai Volkov or the Iron Sheik,
Yeah,
or
Iron
if
Sheik,
it's
yeah,
Sergeant Slaughter deflecting. You had a time where it was acceptable, and there were other characters when you think of the Ultimate Warriors and you think of the Macho Mans and Ted DiBiase's and the Red Roosters and the Ravisher Rick Rudes and the garbage and the Junkyard Dogs, and
hmm,
wrestling was at that time, characters were larger than life.
yeah,
Movies, TV, that it was a huge thing. So when you think about the '90s, that was really the downfall for WWE until you really had until what happened with WCW. But even
right,
then, it kind of went up when you got to the Undertaker, something different, a otherworldly being that you didn't, that this man, not he didn't create it himself, but amongst with other people, back this thing up that we didn't know would be what it was today, what it is today. Uh, the decision making to think that this is the thing that people want to see when the ratings and the declining was there. So it's like I always wonder, man, the stubbornness of Vince. Like, was there ever a time where he saw it, but and knew it, but did he really want to change? Did he want to take those steps? Did he see that the grunge, the metal, the heavy metal, did he see all of that coming and just wanted to stick with the family wholesome things and didn't really think he could go to it? Or was it more of a, well, I feel like it wasn't so much, it was more of a force because WCW kind of forced their hand because
I,
once
I,
the outsiders happened, it was
yeah.
like, I can't keep going with this. I gotta change this up. I gotta do these things. So
Well,
it, it
I'm gonna tell you why I believe much like you said why I believe Vince was forced to do it. You got to understand, like, and Eric Bischoff said, what was the one thing he said he knew family
yeah,
wise, you weren't going to compete with the families. You weren't going to compete with
no,
the 8 year olds and the 9 and 10 and 11. So with WWE, they already had that. That was a market all of their own. So what did they do? They went for the older, the older demographic, the 18, the 35, 49s,
yeah,
So they
yeah,
went with a more edgier product. The thing was with
yeah,
WWE, what did people complain about WWE? Like you said, everything was larger than life. And when you think about it, all of the characters at that time, when they cut promos, it was the same. It was over the top. It was overzealous. Like there was really no
big burly guys
individuality.
that you couldn't fight.
Yeah, now with WCW, they wanted a more realistic approach. So guys like a Scott Hall, he didn't have to go into WCW be Razor Ramon, a Chico. No, he went into Scott Hall. Kevin Nash, same thing. He got to be Kevin Nash. So they brought that realism, and then Vince, he's seen that as like, okay, all right, damn, you know what?
Yeah,
I can only do what I'm doing for so long because even though Vince is stubborn, at the same time Vince is, he loves competition. He's a competitive guy. And I think,
yeah,
if Vince could, I mean, and it's even shown now up until 2022. Yeah, Vince, he had the attitude era, and then he had a ruthless aggression era for a minute. But then what did he do? He eventually went back to what he knows. That's the whole family entertainment thing. Yeah, he had some crazy routes and rides and shit to get back to this, but eventually, and we understand shareholders and all that. And when he became, a public company, things, but just by nature had to change. But overall, Vince always wanted this to be something other. Vince, when he changed it to World Wrestling Entertainment, and of course he had a whole lawsuit with the WWF World Wildlife Fund and all that, but Vince has made it no secret he's always wanted to separate himself from wrestling per se. Wrestling was always something that they did, but it was nothing he ever wanted it to be solely identifiable as. He always wanted to compete with the Monday Night Footballs. He always wanted to compete with the World Series. He always wanted to, hence the term sports entertainment. Yeah, it's sports, but it's also entertainment. So, like you say, this is like the male soap opera. So you got the storylines, you got your goofy characters, you got this, that, and the third, but then you got the element of sports when it comes to athletics and matches and competition. So, Vince, I will say this, and I really wish I could be a fly on the wall now, because now that Triple H is taking over, and Triple H is doing a lot of what Vince has refused to do, right? Because Triple H is much like us, he's a fan at heart. He
Mm-hmm.
understands, yes, this is world wrestling entertainment and pro wrestling. No matter where you are, there's always going to be an element of comedy, of drama, of story. You have to have that in pro wrestling. It's still a TV show at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day. But what
Mm-hmm.
Triple H has done, he's restored the prestige to the wrestling aspect of it. I mean, within just a few short months, in less than half a year, we've already got respect put back on the United States Championships. We got respect put back on the Intercontinental. Like these were belts were under Vince, man. I want to say what I
They were
believe
jokes.
before
They were
WrestleMania,
jokes.
the damn Intercontinental hadn't been defended on the pay per view. What over a year at that point?
Oh, they both of them have
Disrespect.
been really. Both of them. I mean, outside of WrestleMania, neither championship really gets defended on the pay per view. They always get defended on the TV, on TV, until it's WrestleMania. Then when you need, of course, you need all the matches. So then, of course, you're gonna put a match on because it's WrestleMania. But I, man, bro, you said so much. You you said so much. Man, for me, watching WWE. And just kind of wondering and just looking like I look back at it now and I wonder if you know what was the um how do I want to say this when WCW went out of business
Yeah,
and Vince basically bought WCW. We brought all
hmm
the people over and we knew why some of the people couldn't come over.
right, right, right,
And well, at that time we didn't know because at that time it didn't really get put out there until like a little bit later on once the invasion thing kind of started happening and then once you kind of
right.
see okay well who's actually going to show up and it started getting investigated well why are these people not here why isn't this person showing up and it was
hmm
due to the contracts and stuff like
right.
that I just always wondered you know what could have really happened then could Vince have really respected those guys like could and I always felt like the Vince as much as we give Vince the praise for what he's done, you got to look at some of the ruthlessness of how he might have done stuff, or the not so much the ruthlessness, but the it's my way or the kind of the highway. What I think, what I know, what I think is better, and
Well,
not to say that it didn't have success, but there are some things. It's like, man, Vince, if you wouldn't have been so egotistical, you wouldn't have been so far up your ass.
but
Man,
but
you
see,
could have had something great right here.
but here's the thing. Here's the thing. And then I want us to touch on this question from Fro. So I'm gonna leave that up. When it comes to Vince, you answered your own question because how many stories have we heard from people that's either been in the business or around the business to say, everybody around Vince is scared of Vince. Everybody wants to be a yes man to Vince. So my thing is this, and Vince McMahon, this is a guy that created the WWE universe. How many times have people said that's either been in a company or wrestled for Vince who didn't come up through WWE or FCW or the developmental? How many times have people said, you know what? Vince loved me personally, or Vince liked this person personally, but you know what? He didn't come up with this gimmick, so he squashed it. He didn't come up with this idea, so he buried it. But if it was a Vince McMahon original idea, look how far it would have went. And that's the thing, even when it comes to something as simple as a name change, we said this before, bro, don't give me a guy like an AJ Styles or a Samoa Joe or somebody I ain't know that's built their name on the independence that come here and try to repackage them as a whole nother person, knowing the only reason you know this person is the same reason I know this person, but you want to try to get me to believe this person is not who I know this person is.
Well, dude,
You know
he did that with
it's that God
WCW.
complex.
Well, he did that with WCW. We all watched it. We watched the NWO come in, and even if they weren't technically the trade company as of yet, like I think that was in the process of being that, or it might just happen. But it was like,
Yeah,
man, the NWO came in as a joke. Like, yeah, they did the thing they did to The Rock, but it wasn't like the NWO came in wrecking shop. Like they
yeah,
came in more like a like fanboys. I didn't like that.
yeah,
Like I kind
yeah,
of hated that,
yeah.
man. Like they're like, oh man, we're the WWE. Like, no, man, y'all all have been here before. Like, this ain't y'all
Right,
first
right,
time
right.
here.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
three of
yeah.
you have been in this
Acting brand
company.
new as hell.
It was just certain things that I kind of just always kind of was down on with Vince. When I
Hmm.
think of when I think of certain WrestleManias or certain matches or pay-per-views, and the people that he pushed or the people that didn't get pushed, like I always wonder why a guy like, and maybe business wise it didn't make sense, but as a fan, I always wonder why a guy like Mr. Perfect never won a
Yeah,
WWE championship. Why a guy
yeah,
like Ted DiBiase, why did he have to buy the championship? Why couldn't he eventually have won? Like there's just certain people, it's like, man, why did they never get, like they were good, like they were the top heels, like they were the people
right.
you would have loved to have won the championship so you can have people boo the hell out of them and
Yeah,
get them over. But again, that was also a lot of them was at a time where that characterism, that visual of that character wasn't
yeah,
there anymore because the times were changing and we wanted to see something that was more, well, we started getting more reality kind of based and whatnot. But let's
mhm.
reach on Fro's question here, man. He
Yeah,
says,
yeah.
do
Let's
you
get to Fro.
think,
Fro, I know we've been talking for a minute.
right,
Fro
right, right,
says,
right. Do we ever, I
Fro
said, do
says,
you think we will ever see a cultural based storyline again? Racist, sexist, homophobic, nationalism, national extremists,
extremist.
etc., etc. Ah, no, because if you remember Muhammad Hassan,
Yeah,
you remember
and he was
Muhammad
scheduled to get
Hassan.
a huge push too.
We all remember Muhammad Hassan. Now you can say, well, that
You know
was
what's
on
crazy? I
timing.
just found out he like Italian. He not even really a
Yeah, he was
Arab.
from Canada. Yeah, he was from Canada. He wasn't even Arab. He was. I mean, yeah, he wasn't even. Yeah, he wasn't even part of it. But that
Yeah,
wrestling in its own. I mean, come on, Kofi Kingston's
yeah.
from West Ghana, Africa, or no, from Jamaica. He was from Jamaica, but he
Initially,
was from
yeah,
West Africa. So and they talk with a Jamaican accent. Now he talks how he talks. So wrestling always played that card.
yeah,
But Muhammad Hassan, man, we all remember how he came in. We all
yeah,
remember what happened with him. It was just
yeah,
that it took that one night, and all you had was 20 guys. And this was a Vince. Oh yeah, we're gonna do this. And
yeah,
you know what? And it was great. It was great. Loved it
yeah,
because the story they were telling and the way that they were telling that story, and he was going up against the Undertaker. So it was like,
yeah,
bruh, you
yeah.
you you like you like okay. Okay. I gotta watch my words how
Come
I
on,
say this.
come on.
It played on a realism
Yeah,
that really affected people. The the realism of it that you had a guy pretending to be from a certain country of terrorism, and he was doing these antics against a guy like the Undertaker, and what was
yeah,
going on. Like it was the portrayal of it that I got, and as a wrestling fan, it's like, oh man, dude, you that crazy. But it's that perception that these people are that crazy because if the perception is, well, they'll strap bombs to themselves to go blow up planes, and they'll do what they do, and that that
yeah,
that was that was extreme, but it was too soon. It was too close. Fro Yoko was from Japan, but he was really Samoan. Bro,
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
had a lot.
yeah.
You had a lot of people that were that were that was not what they really were. Okay, but to reach on Fro's question, it wasn't a bad storyline. I mean, because we've seen foreign heels before, and it was kind of refreshing to kind of have him because he was kind of up to date. He was an up to date kind of foreign heel.
Yeah,
It was just timing. It was too close from 9/11, and it was just like, man, that was awesome. But people hated it. Like, oh my god, that brought back trauma and all this other stuff. So I don't
yeah,
think if that's the way people felt then, and I understand the timing. Again, it was close, but it was like 4 or 5 years. It was like it was time had passed, man. But it was still
now,
too close. I don't
now,
think it can happen now because I think we saw what the reaction would be if they would try to do something like that now.
now, as far as that goes, I agree with you on that one. But I would say, as far as okay, so he says racist and homophobic. So I'm gonna do the
Ah,
I'm gonna start with the
yeah, 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 yeah,
homophobic
yeah.
one
You go ahead.
first.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And the reason I say that is because now there is so much visibility with homosexuality in general, right? And then sports,
Hmm.
every day it seems like somebody's coming out, and male or female or however they identify, and I think they tried that angle with Sonya Deville and Lana. I mean, excuse me, not Sonya Deville, Liv Morgan and Lana. And
Oh, they
and they
oh my
they they
god.
they butchered that one terribly, because
Terribly.
one, you already had somebody in Sonya Deville who was already very publicly outed, as a proud gay lesbian woman, and then you take these two straight women and you do a whole storyline, and a lot of people, including her, and fans, they kind of felt like, okay, well, it's public knowledge. You got her, you got Darren Young at the time as well, and so many other people that could have done this angle that really were, and then you got people who aren't them playing that. So again, I think wrestling now is like Too Cold said. It's a different time. Sensitivity is at an all-time high. We talked about DX doing blackface. Hell, Piper did blackface at one point, and
Yeah, man,
again,
but yeah, but his was but
again, we laughed at it, and I could look back on it now and watch it on the network like, damn, that was grimy. But I could laugh at it because I understood what it was at that time. But now, oh my God, I don't know if there is any way you can get away with that now. But now, as far as that goes, Tuco, one of our guys that me and you both liked at the time when he was in NXT, Fro just brought him up, so I'm gonna do the justice of putting this one up. Patrick Clark, aka Velveteen Dream. I think that is one guy that could have got away with it but I'm gonna tell you why I think he could have got away with it, because one, his talent was so undeniable that even if you felt uncomfortable for whatever reason with the gimmick itself, I think eventually the talent and the matches he put on in the ring, it would have won you over. Two, everybody knows that gimmick was based off of Prince. We already knew that, and everybody loves Prince. And it was kind of one of the weird things because yeah, he kind of had, I guess you would quote unquote, homosexual tendencies, but his character is more of an androgynous character. And if you really want to go back to androgyny and wrestling, you can go back to Gold Dust at the time, and we all know Gold Dust ain't gay, So it's, again, I think you
man.
can get away with it. It's just, I think how you do it, because you could do anything. I just think it's the delivery and the intent.
Chuck Colombo and Billy Gunn.
Exactly. Now that threw me through a loop because they were just having like a,
I
like a
think that's
tag
the
team wedding, but
I
the way
think
they led up to it,
that's the
yeah,
best way that you
yeah,
but even for then it was acceptable because even though you were more I feel like kind of at that time gay people were more accepted, uh
yeah.
so it wasn't degrading too much. It was just kind of like, oh, you got a gay tag team couple, and then yeah. Oh, that kind
Sergeant
of hit
Slaughter,
like Muhammad Hassan did. Only
yeah.
difference, it didn't hit as hard because you didn't have the internet. That was the only difference. You
You know
didn't
what?
have
I
the
think you can get
internet.
away with a lot more. Sorry, not
Oh,
to
you
cut you off.
most definitely got you.
But
Well,
but,
you
but I
most
think
definitely
I
got
think
away with
that's
a
the
lot
thing
more.
too. I think that's the thing too, because internet, you can give your instant reaction, right? And I think a
Yeah.
lot of times too, unfortunately, when it comes to, especially with WWE Pro Wrestling, but with any type of entertainment in general, when you're in the public eye like that, I think people are so focused on being the first to say something or the first to be a
Hmm.
troll that they don't. I don't think people even are as upset as they claim to be. But I think, because cancel culture is so prevalent now, and it's so easy to just gang up on somebody or something you quote unquote don't like, or it just isn't the most popular thing. I think that, honestly though, the main reason you couldn't get away with a lot today, entertainment wise, and have it being seen just as that, is because the internet. Because I believe if you didn't have an Instagram or a Twitter or Google, and you just really had to sit there and watch it, I think people will really be able to kind of pay attention and see certain things for what it is. Not saying that everything that was done was okay by any stretch of the imagination, but I think right now you just got people nitpicking, and they right there, they got their phone in their hand, and they just can't wait to tweet something or fucking text something. How many times you go to an event, bro, and you
Twitter
see,
thugs, man. Got them Twitter thugs.
I mean, how many times you go to an event, wrestling, basketball, whatever, and people aren't even watching the game? You're there, but you're not there. Everybody taking pictures and taking selfies. You know, you're there for a moment, not the actual experience. I think that's what it is. I think people are just waiting on that moment to kind of pick something apart. And I think as a creative, which we are, on a lot lesser scale than WWE, but I think that also kind of hinders things because I think there's some things that they want to try or could try, but it's like,
Okay.
nah, because the minute something don't go your way, here we go with the hashtags and shit.
Well, okay, so let's bring it back to Vince because well, it's still all about Vince, but
Yeah,
I as the creator, like as the guy that's in charge, like how could 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 anyone do his job? Hell, fucking no.
yeah,
Let me put that out there right now because I know we said a lot of stuff, but let me
yeah.
make that very clear. I don't think no one else could have ever done or made the decisions or had the
No,
guts to do a lot of the stuff that he did in the way that he did it.
yeah,
Um, Obviously now because of what's happening now and the way our culture has changed and the way society has changed and how we look at stuff, and the way that people are taking advantage of accountability and where you want people to be accountable for their wrongdoings, but I think the way folks are going about it, is the it's not it's sensitive times, man. But I
right.
just feel like sometimes some ways we go about stuff, it doesn't have to be as you want to know stuff, you want to know the information, you want to know it's true, you want people to be accountable for stuff, but some things there's levels to everything. I think that's the best way I can say it. There's levels
Yeah,
to everything, and sometimes there's an over exaggeration on certain stuff. I can't sit here and say that Vince, as a genius that he is in wrestling, that this dude doesn't have his faults. Of course, like I say, there's so many things that we can question the decision making, behind some of the stuff that he's done on TV, the way that he, uh, I guess you could say, did not appreciate the wrestlers, the
right.
things that he did not want to do. Wrestlers want to unionize. That usually didn't work out. If you didn't do what Vince wanted you to do, you were labeled as difficult, and you were let go. Uh, it was it was his way or the highway. Uh, and I feel like, he had that right to be that way. He had that right to be that way. But it it was so detrimental to him after a while because once you lost all your stars, and let's think about this, once 2010 to 2011 kind of hit, you didn't have the level of superstardom that you once had, that you banked on, because a lot of those guys, they were getting tired of your shit because you obviously didn't really see nothing in them, and people got tired of you wasting their time. You wasted a
Right.
lot of people's years because you didn't really care about or see anything in them, but you didn't want them to go somewhere else and become something great. And I always felt like that was, a thing that kind of started making me be real disgusted with Vince. As time went on, Fro says movies or TV shows still do cultural based storylines and sponsors don't freak out. Everyone knows wrestling is entertainment, so why do people freak out about what is on their TV shows? Because wrestling
Because
purposely
it's still real to
painted
people, damn it.
it is, but wrestling also painted a different picture
Yeah,
because they decided to go against it. But at the same time, once they went public, the people that were sponsoring them, the people that
yeah,
were having to say so, because remember, Vince did all of that other stuff we talked about because he was running the show. He
yep,
answered to no one but the network, and the network
yep,
didn't have a problem with it because the network was getting its ratings. So as long as the
yep.
network were getting its ratings, they didn't give a damn about all them letters them parents were. Because if you don't think people weren't sending letters in when Shawn Michaels was sitting there butt naked while they playing strip poker, you got another thing coming. If you don't think people was sending letters when he was making Trish Stratus bark like a dog in the middle of the ring, you got another thing
Yeah.
coming. Those letters and stuff was coming. We just didn't hear about it because the network didn't give a damn because the network was getting its ratings, it was getting its money,
Yeah.
and the sponsors were getting their money, and everybody was getting their damn money. But once Vince made it public and
Yeah.
people had more of a say so it's like, oh,
Yep.
we love WWE, but we need to make it more family wholesome. We want the moms and the soccer moms and all the kids to love and show up, and we want them. So then we saw the transition for that. And because they consciously went with it at a time where you still have a lot of TV shows, but I don't know, man. Wrestling has become something else other than TV shows. Like a, a storyline based TV show is not the same as wrestling because even though we know that show is fake, but
Yeah.
wrestling is just something different. I can't really fully
You know what
explain
it
what it
is?
is, but it just does not resonate with people the same because a lot of
Uh,
people, the same people who may watch there. Let's say if there's 2 million people that watch
yeah.
NCIS. Out of
Yeah.
that 2 million people who may watch that show, maybe 750,000 people watch wrestling. Like, and because they're just not turned on to wrestling. So I also think it's kind of a numbers game of who's actually into it and who's not. And you have your
I'm
casual fans, but as you see in the ratings, it ain't a whole lot of them compared to what it used to be.
well. See. The one thing with pro wrestling is this: it's a conundrum, right? Because you
Yeah.
got people that see pro wrestling and they love it and they respect it for what it is, and then you got people that don't see pro wrestling as a real sport, right? They don't see professional wrestling as anything other than quote unquote fake, right? So or predetermined, which it is. But there's people who don't put respect on pro wrestling. And the thing is, when you watching a movie, right? Will Smith had been in hundreds of movies, but the thing is when you're watching a movie, you're watching the person Will Smith play different characters. When it comes to professional wrestling, you're watching the character, and in real life, you want to know what the person is really like. Because here's the thing, outside of
Yeah.
you can watch a Men in Black, or you can watch a Django, you can watch it whatever. And Will Smith does a great job at playing all these different characters. But at the end of the day, when that movie is over with, you understand that's just Will Smith. You had a guy like the Undertaker, who was the Undertaker on TV. He was the Undertaker in interviews. He was the Undertaker in real life when you seen him out at the airport. You got guys that really live the gimmick. So now with professional wrestling, because for so many years, we were taught to believe it's real. This person really is a dead man. This person really did, come back alive from a house fire. This person really is a pallbearer. This person really is, Jesus or whoever this person is playing today, or whatever the hell he is. So, we were taught to believe, and for so long, because wrestling was such a tight knit and a tight circle, that you didn't
Hmm.
know. You hear a lot of wrestlers say now that's in the business, like a Randy Orton or a Rock or a Roman Reigns. And they talk about when they were younger, when they were kids, yeah, other wrestlers were frequent over at the house, but at the end of the day, even the kids didn't know it was fake. Their parents that were predetermined, I should say, they didn't know that. So if you see Andre the Giant at your house, you really thought that was Andre the Giant. You feel me? Whereas
Right,
now
right. You didn't question
Andre
none of
the
that.
Giant might be really hi Uncle Paul, but that's because now when with Instagram and social media, you got Total Divas and all these other reality shows. Now it's kind of like okay, you know,
Well,
fans are.
I,
I
I, well,
I
well,
I I think I think that's where the realism. I think to a degree, realism helped pro wrestling, but at the same time, I think it also hurt it because now
well,
fans
the
think they know
internet, the
so much.
internet, the internet stories, the leaks is what hurt wrestling because
Yeah,
you
yeah,
didn't know you thought the Undertaker was really some guy that was from hell. Like you didn't really know who Mark Calloway was. You didn't
yeah.
know who these guys. You didn't know the ins and outs of how certain things were done or how the shows were taped. You didn't know those little secrets until you started getting the dirt sheets. And when you started getting them dirt sheets in the internet, bro,
Mhm.
I feel like that to me that's what hurt wrestling more than anything because it took away that allure. So it kind of
Yeah,
forced them to be more reality based. It kind of forced the hand where it's like, let's not pretend.
Yeah.
well, all right, you know how this kind of works now. Well,
Right,
we're
right,
gonna
right. Yeah,
steal.
you
Well,
got me.
now we're get all right. You got me. So all right. Well, now let's just present it this way. So I really think that that's what really got to a process related to Vinnie Mac. What if they did a storyline related to the sexual misconduct? Rhea Ripley could force Dominic to take her in order to stay. I feel like they did that, man, because Dom is there now. I feel like she
Yeah.
did that to him, and that's why he keeps calling her mommy because because
Hey, hear you say that just
they
sounded
are
hilarious as hell.
they are doing that, bro. I feel like that is what's happening because that's
And
why
then when you hear
Dom
the
had to.
commentators and they say like
That's
their
why
little
Ray had to go
innuendos
to
on
SmackDown.
commentary.
It is, but that's why Ray had to go to SmackDown, man. He couldn't watch his stuff. He
uh,
couldn't watch his stuff.
hey,
He couldn't watch it. He couldn't watch it no more.
hey,
He
man.
couldn't stand it.
Now,
Like damn.
I will say, it's a double standard,
Oh
but I don't know how many people will. You got people begging to be in. You got grown ass men on Twitter, online, begging to be in Don's position, begging to get beat and choked up
hell yeah,
and stepped
man.
on,
Look here,
by
man.
Rhea
It's real
Ripley.
rhythm.
So if
Hell
anything, I
yeah.
don't think they got to worry about no cancel cultures or Me Too's on this side because, hey man, the people, the people apparently
I
want to see
don't think the cancel
strong
culture
gothic
will
woman.
ever. I don't think cancel culture will ever hit the women as hard as it hits the men. You have to be a
Yeah,
certain type of like if you were a teacher or something like that, yeah, you'll get hit, but or you'll get scolded for it. But if you're like a wrestler or something like that, man, it's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
man, you got so many guys out there saying, "Yeah, I wish you would beat me, woman. Yeah, make me your little bitch." Come on, man. You got women out there that's saying it, man. Like there's so many people who are like, "Yeah, I would switch places with Dom in a heartbeat." That
yeah,
the noise of the oh my god that's so wrong it would be drowned out by the people who are like nah you
yeah,
don't know what the fuck you talking about. I just
yeah,
feel like there is certain standards to people to certain sexes on certain things but unfortunately that's human beings. That's just us as human beings. I don't care what country you live in. There is sexism against men and women in every part of the country. Some places women ain't got no respect whatsoever. Shit, hell, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, they just after 3 years, they finally got some damn respect to be able to come to the shows and be able to enjoy themselves.
yeah.
So we watch that happen each year. So every time they do a show, we watch the evolution of what's going on. So I just feel like, uh, Fro, you can do it. TV shows do it, but wrestling is different. It just hits different with wrestling. It's a different product. It's almost like basketball. It's not wrestling used to be looked at maybe Vince got his wish. The only problem
Yeah.
is he still you can't garner the fan base that you had before because the reasons why Raw was making 3.2 Super Bowl numbers back in the
Yeah,
day is because of the content of what you were putting out, and
yeah,
a lot of people weren't watching it for the wrestling. You've been trying to do that for the past 20 years, but you've been watering down the content to kid friendly level that you lost that hardcore part of the people that was watching your shows. And
right.
I get why he wanted to make WWE that now. He wanted it to be looked at as a sport more than just a sport, but it's entertainment. But he wanted to be looked at as a sport. He wanted for it to be looked legit. But uh, let's be honest, man. Professional wrestling is never going to be legit. It's an entertainment. It is what it is. Uh, but yeah, that's crazy. I don't
Yeah,
know.
but nah, man. But no, like I said, man, I just you and I, we definitely say we want to talk about Vinnie Mac, So I want to kind of talk about some of the highs,
I
some of the
just
lows, what's
no,
up?
I just know, man. I overall, man, Vince McMahon, creative genius. Yes, I am thankful for good, bad, right, wrong, whatever, man. He pushed something forward that we all, in some way, form of shape, or form of fashion, we enjoyed the hell out of it to the point to where we still look at it and talk about it to this day.
Yeah.
Sure, as we become adults, we can look at certain things and be like, ah, man, as a teenager, man, that was funny as hell. But as an adult, whoo, man, that's
Yeah.
hard. that's
Especially,
that's
especially,
rough.
especially as adults that got kids now. You kind of look at it with the side eye, like, ooh.
Right. But you can look at life that way.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't just look at wrestling that way. You
Of
got to
course.
look
Of
at
course.
life. So,
Yeah.
but people don't look at it that way. That's the problem. People look at it how they want to look at it. For me, I just say look at it all. Don't just look at what you want, but that's maybe some daddy issues or mommy issues they got to deal with. So that's the reason why they can't do that. But I
Right.
just
Right.
feel like,
Right.
man, there's I appreciate and I'm very thankful for everything Vince McMahon has done. I have not agreed with everything he's done, but for the most part, my man's giving me what I want. Even if I didn't know I wanted it. And there's been
Yeah.
plenty of times he gave something, bro, I didn't even know I want that, but
Right.
damn, I
Right.
want
Right.
more of that. I come on, man, keep it coming, keep it coming. You got to keep it coming because I didn't even know I needed that in my life. So I am very thankful for a lot of those because I think he's given us a lot of those. I think he's given us a lot of those moments where it was like, Vince, we didn't need that, but then it was like, man, I didn't even know I wanted to see this. Yeah, let's go. Come on, Vince. You evil genius. You. I just wish you
Right.
would give a
Right.
damn a
Right.
little more. That's about it.
But nah, 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 nah. You absolutely right. Fro says, he made Trish bark like a dog. Vince did a lot of
Dude, oh
unsavory
my God,
shit.
the kiss my
The
ass
Kiss My
club.
Ass
Like
Club. You got grown ass
as
men kissing
heinous
you in your
as it
white tidy
was,
whities.
with the suntan ass. Uh Bruh, when Rio Regal pulled out the chapstick,
Chapstick,
I
yeah. Yeah.
I
You talking about
died,
somebody that
dude.
made the best out of a bad situation. He took that one like a champ, bro.
You talking about the man's man, all right? The manly man. Rio Regal pulling out chapstick to kiss Fitz's ass.
Can you
Like,
imagine what that
bruh.
looked like on the security cameras when they had to watch them rehearse that shit hours before the doors?
Oh, first of all, I am not rehearsing kissing your ass, sir. We are not. I am not finna sit out here in this empty arena in the middle of a ring and rehearse kissing your ass. This is a one take shot. Fuck that.
Uh,
No, this is no. Hell no. Hell no.
my
Hell
boy
no.
said
I don't
one
give a
take
damn how
break.
much money. I don't care. This is a one take shot. When
Yeah.
we go live, this is it. This is the one time this has happened. I don't even want to do this in front of people, let alone you think I'm going to sit here and practice this shit for hours in the empty arena.
In
No.
complete,
Hell
hey,
no.
hey, in complete
Hell
silence.
no. Hell no, man. Get out of here, bro. Nah, I don't care. You can fire me
Oh,
after it. Yeah, you can fire me now. No, this is one take. That's it.
uh, hey, can you imagine if he kissed his ass and they got fired the next week on TV?
And they did. Some of them did. Jr. got fired. No, no, I mean, but look, you think about half the people that did kiss his ass probably got fired. But
Yeah.
hell, there were apparently people doing more and they got fired. But no, man, there were things that I know that was bad. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but kind of already went
Hey,
there.
hey,
But
hey, hey, accusations.
accusations, man. But I. It's hard, man. Vince is gonna be one of those people where uh you're gonna want to honor him.
Yeah.
Like he should be honored. But man, let's leave the personal behind. Let's just look at the overall of the wrestling, regardless if. And what I mean by that is, the way he treated the wrestlers, uh, just some of the stuff he was willing to do, people he was willing to work with, people he wasn't willing to work with, the things that went great, the things that didn't go great as far as characters, storylines, what he presented that he thought would be a great idea that bombed, what he
Yeah.
presented that was a great idea and it blew up. Overall, man, the man went 50 for the man batted 500. Uh, he didn't bat 1,000. He batted 500. Hey man, he struck out half the time that he was there. What Shaq say, man, you got to make half the free throws. Which Vince made half his free throws because it's.
Hey, he made
I think he made. I think he
he,
made a
look,
little
he
bit
got done
more.
the game winners too. So that's
Oh
all that
yeah,
matters.
most definitely, man. Like he's up there, man. But I just hope that what's happened recently doesn't really take too much of what the overall, like, regardless if you agree with everything that he's done or how he treated some people, or the way that things happen with certain people. Or, it's Vinnie Mac, man. It's Vinnie
Yeah,
Mac, man. This dude come on TV to get his ass whooped for our entertainment. The man pissed himself. I mean, he didn't piss himself, but he
yeah,
pissed himself in the middle of the
yeah,
ring for our entertainment. He got his face shoved up the Big Show's ass for our entertainment. He kissed
yeah,
Rikishi's ass for our entertainment. As much heinous shit he did to other people and embarrassed them,
yeah,
he took
yeah,
as much of that shit in
yeah.
return, which is what made people respect him. Like, man, anybody that's willing to go out there to do that, to make his company great, to make people want to continue to watch it, whatever, regardless if you thought it was ridiculous or not, he did it. And it's like, man, it's like, damn, man, man, you the man, bro. You the man. I can't even. I don't agree with everything, but you the man, man, and I thank you, because I love this business. I love this entertainment, and some of the moves that you made helped shape other moves that other people needed to make to help continue this thing that we have now, man. Again, there's a moment where wrestling could have really hit the shelf, for real, for real. WWE might not have made it. WCW might not have made it. Impact might not. ECW damn show wasn't making it. They was already broke. Shit, it wasn't really, it really wasn't too many people. It really wasn't too
Yeah,
many people out there really doing it, man. So,
yeah,
uh, we love this business. We understand what it is. We understood then, and even with the reality base of today, you understand even more now. But even now, I feel like now it has that respect that Vince wanted. Like, everything that he really wanted it to be, it really became that. You think about it, WWE is being talked about on ESPN, bro. Like, ESPN is doing shots of WWE, man. Like, Sports Illustrated, like they're talking about us like we're a sport. Like, so Vince accomplished what he wanted. Uh, he just didn't give it the way that some people wanted it. He gave it the way he wanted to give it, and now we get to see if Triple H can keep his vision, but take it to the level that we saw that he could do. Now that he's got full reign, he's got full reign. I don't know if bringing back everybody from NXT that he thought was going to be big is going to be the key, but it's a start for right now, and then we'll see where it goes, man. But Vinnie Mac, man, he's the man, the myth, the legend, the ass kisser, the demon, no, not the demon, the manipulator. This man would kidnap his own daughter. He would fight his own son. He would throw his own wife in a crazy house and sleep with the hot manager from TNA named Trish Stratus. He would this dude, this dude would he would take a pile of shit and let it land on him, and he would take super kicks. He did all this crazy shit, man, and he was awesome for it. I don't know what else to really say. I can't throw too much shade on Vince. I can be honest. I can say what I didn't like, but I can't really throw too much shade, man.
man, no, not at all. We about to wrap it up, but this guy, he literally took something, right? And if there's no Vince McMahon, there'd be, no Tony Khan, and Tony Khan, he's provided one hell of an alternative,
There's no
and
Eric Bischoff.
there's no Eric Bischoff,
There's no none of these guys, man.
and then when you look at it, right,
Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman.
and,
Think
and,
about
and,
where
and
Paul Heyman would be without Vince. Like, if he
yeah,
bruh. No,
but not even just Paul Heyman.
so many other people.
When you look at pro wrestling, especially in the realm of WWE, you got Hulk Hogan, who hasn't been relevant inside of a wrestling ring for over 15 years. You got a guy like Stone Cold Steve Austin who literally wrestled in WWE at his peak for about a good 7.5, 8 years, and yet to this day, 20 years later, we still talk about him. You got a guy in Dwayne The Rock Johnson who, even though he didn't have an incredibly long career in the ring, he is one of the most well known and respected and revered wrestlers who went on to be the highest grossing paying actor in Hollywood. So you talk about a guy who has literally given the platform to for people such as the Rocks and so on and so forth. You talk about Roman Reigns right now. I think his star shines right outside of WWE whenever he's ready to hang it up. You got Sasha Banks and so on and so forth. You got who's doing things with the Mandalorian. You got Liv Morgan doing things with Chucky and things like that. So Vince, even
That
though
was a
he has
one-off.
his way.
That was a one-off for her, man. She died at the end of that
Well,
episode.
yeah, I know, but my point being is, his company and what he has built is giving others a platform outside of WWE to be something bigger than just a wrestler, to be something bigger than just a sports entertainer, right?
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
WWE has laid the foundation for people to go out and literally be household names in other genres. You got people who have never in their life seen The Rock wrestle, but they know that Dwayne Johnson is The Rock. And that says a lot because guess what? When he's going out and he's breaking box office budgets, when he's out there with the #1 movie in the
yeah.
world, and WWE needs his ass to come back for a promo or a 2 month, whatever, leading up to WrestleMania, guess what? Those people who don't give a shit about wrestling, they might tune in just because some lady out there think The Rock is the sexiest son of a bitch alive, and they gonna tune in.
Mhm.
So, it is what it is, man. It's definitely a two-way street. So, like you say, we can be honest, we can critique because we're fans of it, and if we didn't give our honest opinion, that means we don't love it. And yeah, we're gonna do that, but at the same time, has everything Vince done been great? Absolutely not. Has he had some things that, yeah, it's kind of fucked up? But then again, we all do. The only difference with Vinnie Mac and the rest of us, his shit is out there and it's got air publicly. Because guess what? If half your search history got put out there on blast, your ass to be a fucking your ass to be hell again looked at funny too. But with
Hell
that being
yeah, hell yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for taking the time to tune in to a very special episode, man. We got Vinnie Mac done. We got somebody else coming up for y'all, but we ain't gonna hey, just keep your
Yeah,
notifications
we'll
on.
wait. We'll wait. Yeah,
You know
we'll
what
wait
I'm
to tell
saying?
y'all about that one.
But yeah, man, Tuco, man. Any final thoughts, man, before we get out of here?
Nah, man. Appreciate them. Like I said, a lot of questionable decisions, a lot of head scratchers. I wish he wouldn't have let his ego get in the way with so many people because I believe uh, WWE could have been at a high. It could have been at a higher level
Yeah,
if he would have just had a little bit more confidence and patience and quite a
yeah,
few people. Um, Not saying they would have been the greatest, but I know there were so many people that were head that could have been heading to a great. And I won't sit here and say that it was all on Vince. Some of those folks have to show up. Bischoff said it best. Some people they gotta want it. Some people don't want it. They end up staying where they're at. And fortunately, some it felt like that for some people, but it was what it was, man. I appreciate what I have. I appreciate what it is, and I don't think I could. I don't think it could have happened any better for it to be where it's at right now.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for tuning in to another episode of GOW, the Generation Wrestling Podcast. As always, is yours truly, the 29-year-old piece of gold, the franchise. He is the king of the GOW, King Tuco. And until tomorrow, because it's Wednesday night and you know what that means, we'll see you in city.
Dynamite.